I see my next guest. He's getting ready. He is here. Ted Rall, political analyst, cartoonist, syndicated columnist, and host of TMI, Too Much Information, with the beautiful, the awesome Manila Chan. How you doing, Ted? You doing okay, man?
Um, yeah, I'm like a little bit worried about the markets. How about you?
I don't have any money in the markets, so fair enough. But I look, $10 trillion evaporates out of thin air. The president that caused it, that did not campaign on this, by the way, doesn't
Yeah,
seem to care at all. Tell people to hang tough. It's like, what do you mean hang tough? You're rich. Elon Musk is rich. All of
yeah.
the people you associate with are rich.
His tough
The
is baked
people,
in.
yeah. I mean,
That
it's
gave him the
insane.
tough.
Well, the markets across the world have effectively crashed. Japan's market, they had to close it or stop it, freeze it, because they had dropped like 8%. The US markets have lost like $10 trillion. They are going to open, close, meaning they're going to open tanking once again as a direct result of it. And the Trump administration doesn't care.
I've never seen
Doesn't-
anything like this. I used to work on Wall Street. I don't know if you know
I
that.
know you did,
And
which is the part of the
Bear
reason why I'm so
Stearns,
happy to talk to you today.
one of the companies that evaporated in the 2008 2009 subprime mortgage meltdown. I was long gone by then, but I was there in the late 80s. I was there for the 1987 stock market crash, and I will just say that like I've never seen anything like this. First of all, I've never seen a prolonged multi-day crash. That's these are usually single day events, and you can have jitters, you can have aftershocks, but this is a prolonged systemic free fall. We haven't found the floor. And then
Yeah.
the other thing is I've never seen basically a single person like single-handedly destroy global markets like this with a policy decision. I mean, if you look at the causes of the 1929 crash, 1987, and other downturns, they've all had systemic causes that were, people certainly were warned about and they were aware that they were coming. But, this is an unforced error. This is something that this isn't like, banks be lending too much money to people who can't afford it. And then there's a real estate bubble and you saw it blowing up for years and then it pops. And, okay, that's, we understand that. That's what happened in 07, 08. But like, what is this? I mean, this is totally just like, I have to think that if Trump has anyone in his around him who is capable of independent thought, they're yelling at him right now. They're like, what the fuck is going on? You've got to stop it. This is rich people are pissed and they run the country, not you. So
these are yes men. Those people are fired. Those people don't work for Trump.
Yeah, so that's a
Yes
problem.
men.
That's a major
Yes men.
problem. There's no one in the room who can just tell him like you're fucking up. And the thing is, it's even if you accept the idea that he was a good business person, I don't think he's as good as he says. I don't think he's as bad as his detractors say. But he was never a Wall Street guy. He was a real estate guy. Real estate in this city in New York those are two entirely different worlds. The only intersection is where banks lend money to real estate companies. That's it. But he was never part of that world, except as a borrower. He doesn't understand securities markets. He doesn't understand equities. Doesn't understand bonds. There's no sign of him understanding this. I mean, you could look. This could all go away. It's entirely possible, right? Like 50 out of 6. The White House has 50 out of 60 tariff countries are asking for negotiations. I guess the Penguin Island hasn't reached out yet, but everyone else has. So it could just be like, okay, so it's the madman theory, Richard Nixon. They all think he's crazy. They all negotiate. The tariffs go away. The market goes back up. 2 weeks from now, we forget about this whole thing. Maybe. But it doesn't feel like that because it feels like there were a lot of fundamentals that were already, in a bubble. There was a real estate bubble combined with a frozen real estate market. The Fed increased interest rates too quickly, too high, like I said last year. So there's just like too many other things. Basically, I don't think he can put Humpty Dumpty back together again, even if he tries.
And he is doing a massive tax cut simultaneously while this is taking place. And to make this even more ludicrous, listen to this. I don't know if you've seen this clip. This is what he's saying now about Europe and the tariffs.
Take their cars, Mercedes, Volkswagen, BMW. We take their millions of cars. They take no cars. They don't take our farm product. They don't take anything. Europe treated us very badly. We put a big tariff on Europe. They want to sit at the table. They want to talk, but there's no talk unless they pay us a lot of money on a yearly basis. Number one for present, but also for past, because they've taken a lot of our wealth away, and we're not going to allow it to.
Trump is effectively saying Europe needs to pay reparations to America because Europe has been taking advantage of America for so many years, and that there's no talks about negotiations about the tariffs until Europe decides to give us money each year. Like, this is outrageous. It's honestly, my point of view was they should have told Trump to fuck off. All of those countries together should have said, fuck off. We don't need you. Fuck off. I don't care about the damage. I don't care about the impact. Fuck off. Because if you don't tell him fuck off, he says shit like that. Like,
Right.
It's give me more. Give me more. Hey,
It's the
give me
only
your
way
watch.
to respond to a bully. And that's
Yeah.
what it is. And I mean, it's like the law firms, it's like the Ivy League universities. It's the only proper answer is eat shit and die.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Fuck the fuck off. That's what they should have said. That's what China is saying. China's like, we're putting 34% tariffs back on every product coming into China, a market of 1.4 billion people. Anything that you sell
President
in
Xi
this
doesn't play.
country, nor should he.
No.
And as they, China, do you remember that meeting that took place? I think it was a few years ago, where the Chinese diplomat read the riot act to the US in public, basically saying, this is a different world. You're going to treat us as equals. We're not dealing with you under this notion that we're subordinate to you in any particular way. And by the way, Russia is doing the same thing. When they was like, look, we beat the shit out of Ukraine, and not just beat the shit out of Ukraine, we beat all of you. And with the GDP pushing us to number 3 and 4 spot in regards to the world economy, we are not taking a lesson from you. Full stop. Europe hasn't learned that. And so if Europe is like, hey, can we negotiate? Trump's, in his mind, they're weak. They're weak. They need us. They're coming. They're begging us. And so now that they're begging us, now we can get more. Mark Root, I want your watch. And Devon DeLange, I want the underwear that you're wearing. I like to sniff them every so often. So yeah, that's what I want right now. No, I don't need it. I just want it. If you want to make a deal, I need your underwear to sniff. Like, it always ups the ante because he feels like these people are weak. They're coming to us begging us for a deal. And so they're weak. China's like,
this is the Hitlerian comparison. It's the
it
style,
is.
right? Hitler had that whole theory about the triumph of the will, right? Which basically is if you have balls and you're willing to, bluff and bluster, other people will be scared and they'll give you the Sudetenland or maybe all of Czechoslovakia or Austria or whatever you want. And I mean, that appears to be true for the time being. In large part, it's not true about
In short term, the
In the
will to
short
throw a
term.
punch.
Yeah.
Is the will to throw a punch. The other person may not be willing to throw a punch.
I mean, like,
If you
okay,
are-
I'm a graduate of Columbia University. I've never given them a dime because they treated me like shit. But the point is, I have to admit, and I'm unemployed, right? So, like, even so, if they had come out and said, the Trump administration is fucking us because we allowed anti-Gaza war protests on our campus, we need to replace that $400 million that the feds are yanking, I would have been seriously tempted to send them some money, maybe $100 or whatever. I mean, I think, Columbia has a lot of wealthy alumni. It's like a lot of liberal alumni. It's like they would have made up the $400 million and then some, no problem. It's like, take a stand, but they rolled, right? And I think they rolled because the Trumpies and the Zionists were pushing on an open door. There's a lot of very Zionist, very right-wing members of the trustees and among the donor class at Columbia. And they're running the show. So, that was easy, which is why they gave away, the store without even all that Columbia got in exchange for changing, selling out their Middle East studies department and all that is a seat at the table. Trump hasn't given them anything at all. No concessions. It's not like, oh, you're getting your contracts back. They're just literally like, oh, well, now we'll talk to you. So that's absurd. I mean, and it is a triumph of the will issue. And I was, I wanted to ask you a question, Jamal. What did you think about Saturday's hands-off protests? There's a lot of division on the left about that.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I actually have the clips of the scale of these protests. Some of these protests are like, these were astonishingly huge all throughout the country. So right here, Boston, New York, Chicago, San Diego, San Francisco, Portland, Idaho. One person pointed out that they've never seen crowds this big. Here's another one. This is in Minnesota.
Wow.
Like, the crowds are astonishing. I mean, there's the, State House. But all of these are people. All of these are people. Now, some Russian media, which I think they're full of it, is trying to say, this looks like a color revolution. Shut up. Shut up. Look, I get, right?
No.
I get that Trump is willing to make a deal with you or trying to make a deal with you. Shut up. This is not a color revolution.
No.
You have destroyed Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. You've fired workers left and right from all of these organizations. You've instituted a trade war that we are going to have to pay those tariffs. The rich are going to get a tax cut with the justification that look at all this money that we got from the tariffs that we are going to have to end up paying. People are losing their jobs and being laid off as a direct result of the trade war. Don't give me this nonsense that this is out the blue for no reason. They're doing God's work. That's what
well, I mean, so I think what's interesting, right? I mean, I'm really of two minds about this. First of all, it's always good news when Americans get off their ass, off the sofa, out of brunch, and go out into the streets and carry signs and yell shit. That's always good. That's always good news. Except in Charlottesville, then maybe they need to not do that. But like overall, so. But that said, this is definitely sheep herding. These protests were organized by MoveOn.org.
I agree.
Always like to remind people is a Democratic Party front organization, and people forget what MoveOn is named after. It was during the Clinton impeachment. It was urging people to move past the impeachment of Bill Clinton. So it's a Democratic group, right? That's what it is. And there are a couple other allied groups. And so because of that, they had some really curious, stuff like hands off this, hands off that, like all liberal causes where there's zillions of causes, so you can never really figure out what it's really about. And then also hands off NATO, inexplicably. like
hands off Ukraine. That was another one.
That was another one. So that's unfortunate. Certainly. NATO and Ukraine they're not left-wing causes, okay? They're just not. But they weren't left-wing protests. The problem is that a lot of people who were left-wingers would have been left-wingers, and they were fooled, and they were conned into this. And, as usual, something that always bugs me is it's the Saturday protest when you go and disrupt absolutely no one and nothing because it's super convenient. Now, yeah, most people have Saturday off. Fine, but it's not like disruptive like in a city like Washington or New York. You should stop things. I mean, if you're going to be a little bit dangerous, but that's not what this is. And of course, apparently, pro-Gaza forces were few and far between at these protests. They existed, but there were not very many of them. So it's that whole thing like, well, we have to do something. Well, yeah, but you have to do something. You have to do the right thing. And, I think you could argue this is not the right thing. Because
I agree. I do agree with everything that you said, with one caveat. I've said before that what I don't want to happen is for Democrats to represent nothing, to stand for nothing, have no substance, have no 3 a.m. between them and their God talk where they realize, oh my God, we're getting this wrong. We're going to be a permanent minority party. And if Trump F's it up epically, that's what's going to happen.
That's right.
That Trump can fuck it up to such a degree where Democrats can just stand there and point and say, hey, it's bad that he's taking down Social Security. It's bad that he's attacking Medicare. It's bad that he's having a trade war. You should come back to us.
Yeah, they just jujitsu. They don't do anything. They just stand out of the way. And let Trump self-immolate.
And that's what I think these protests are on some level. At the same token,
Totally.
those things are bad.
But there
Like,
is no socialist organization that can, or left-wing there's no left that can, organize anything like this. So
right.
that's the problem. I mean, people keep saying, well, Ted, Mr. Weiner, with Mr. Winger, what do you suggest? I'm like, well, unfortunately, we have to go back to like 1968 and start rebuilding the left that was crushed during the 70s and 80s and 90s from the grassroots up. Yeah, but we need to do something now. You can't, is the problem, because you allowed the left to. Yeah, but we need to. No. And so, it's kind of like, I hate to say it, it's just, I'm interested in systemic solutions. And, going back to the Democratic Party is not a systemic solution.
Agreed.
It's back to brunch.
Agreed.
It's interesting that it's coming out that this is all happening simultaneous to the publication of about half a dozen books by White House insiders who are all revealing how senile Biden was the entire time. Yeah. And so, you would think that would discredit the Democratic Party, but the people are trapped in the two-party. They're in the two-party trap. It's just like, we have this or we have that. And in a way, they're not wrong. Those are your choices within the system. So, and it's hard for people to say, the only, like in war games, the only way to win this game is not to play. Seems clever in the movie, but people don't really do it. They play the game.
Not in real terms. They would say, like 60% of the country would say, well, we're not part of the political party. And yet, when they go to vote, it's like, oh, I don't want to vote for this third party because I don't want to waste my vote. I call it the esoteric other. It's like other people, this amorphous thing of other people will do something else. And because this amorphous thing of other people may do something else, it's a choosing for me in regards to what to do. The Democratic Party is trash. They're not a solution. They're not an option. And yet, because of that dichotomy of thought, there are people who even are here where they'll be like, oh, so you're a Trumper? No. Are you out of your mind? I just spent the entire show trashing Trump. Oh, so you're a Democrat? No. Like, me trashing one doesn't mean that the other one is made of platinum. It just means This one is trash in regards to the way I'm talking about him now. Give me 30 minutes. I will probably get to the other one also, right? The Democratic Party is not a solution. And I guess it's like,
oh, if you don't like dogs, you must like cats. If you don't like cats, you must like dogs. Well, maybe that's
everyone.
Maybe I have a chinchilla, right?
I think what people get stuck with is, and I think Democrats have realized this on some level. All right, Republicans are going to destroy all of this stuff. And we don't have to do anything because they're going to destroy all of this stuff. And so we can just stand here and we don't have to do anything. And that is our job, to not do anything. We're a cultish fundraising mechanism. Mm-hmm. That's what we are. And they, on some level, accepted that status, that the job is not to get stuff accomplished. So no, we're not going to get Medicare for all. We're not going to increase minimum wage. We're not going to give the $300 that Joe Biden was talking about to kids as they're growing up. We're not going to do any of that stuff. We don't believe in that stuff. Our funders, our donors, who are the same people who fund the Republican Party, they don't believe in that stuff. So we're not going to do that stuff. And if you don't vote for us, we're going to let Republicans dismantle everything. So that is what we are. We are the thing that holds and stops Republicans. That is outlandish, but that seems to be the premise that they took. And let me add one more thing to that. Bernie fucking Sanders. Bernie fucking Sanders. Hey man, I've lost my job, but I'm here to pay this bill. This is Sanders saying this, which is...
By the way, before you say that, I should just say the market just opened 4 minutes ago here in New York City. And the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 1,200 points in the first few minutes of trading.
1,200 points in minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Up in smoke.
That's what, the third day? That's on top of last week's losses, right?
What Trump came out on Thursday.
14% of the market or something like that.
Was it Wednesday or Thursday where Trump came out with the trade thing? Because it's been like 3 or 4 days where the market
was the second, right? So that was Tuesday.
Okay. So we're talking about Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday.
A 4-day drop. Like I said, I've never seen anything quite like this.
Sanders comes out with this comment. He says, last night, where is it? He said, last night, every Senate Democrat voted for my amendment calling for a $17 an hour federal minimum wage, while every Republican but one opposed it. The movement to raise the minimum wage to living wage is growing. In 2025, a job must lift you out of poverty, not keep you in it. Now, the notion that Sanders is putting this out during the Trump administration, where Democrats don't have the House, they don't have the Senate, they don't have the presidency, they don't have the Supreme Court. They got nothing. And he's like, every Senate Democrat voted for a bill that all of them know will go nowhere.
That's why.
Oh, this is great.
That's why they voted for it. And
Exactly.
while we're nitpicking, the fight for $15 an hour, which I think it began in 2010. Okay. So for the last 15 years, we know inflation has raged. Okay. It's not just the last couple of years. And so $15 an hour in 2010 is like 30 or 32 now. And like, so like, he's like, again, even if like, let's just say miraculously, the Republicans were like, okay, 17, it's still too low. It's like, you're just starting out too low again. So it's just like, yeah. And Sanders is the best they've got, right? He's their best.
But he is.
And he's not good enough.
He's ludicrous. I mean, like, that's not even honest, right? Like, the portrait that Sanders is painting with that tweet is so dishonest.
Yeah,
because
the fight
the
has
truth of the
begun.
matter,
No, it hasn't. Like, no, it hasn't.
if when Joe Biden was in office, Democrats had the House and the Senate, this would have never passed.
No.
Joe Biden had the opportunity to push for it, and he dropped it like a hot potato. And to make it even worse, dropped it after telling people on the campaign trail, you guys are heroes. You were working during COVID. You were out there putting your bodies and your life on the line for people like me and other white collar workers that had the opportunity to stay home. You're heroes and you deserve at least a living wage. You need a living wage. That's what needs to happen. And I, Joe Biden, am going to pass that living wage. AOC, if you remember, said, I'm not going to force the vote because I believe that I can get Joe Biden to back a $15 an hour minimum wage. When Joe Biden got in office, he dropped it like a hot potato and blamed the parliamentarian in the Senate, somebody who was not elected, by the way, and who could be fired. Republicans fired the parliamentarian under George Bush when they wouldn't support the policies that George Bush wanted. Joe Biden wasn't willing to go that far in order to get his agenda accomplished. It is outrageous. The Bernie Sanders is out here screaming about, oh, hey, look, the Democrats, once they lost their jobs, they're now willing to pay a bill. It's insane.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's kabuki theater. That's what this is all about. I mean, the thing that's so frustrating is, you kind of know what the American people need, which is a worker centered, left-wing political movement. But I don't know how we get there because people have been so propagandized into the duopoly that they can't get out of it. And it's almost like, okay, I can see the Republican Party imploding for the time being until they get their shit together again, which they will. But then it's just the Democrats. It's like, it's the rope-a-dope. If it's not one asshole beating you up, it's the other one over and over and over. The people can't win under this system, which is why the whole system has got to go. And normally a time of crisis would be a time of opportunity for the left. And maybe it is, the one I did write a book where I back in 2010 called the Anti-American Manifesto, where I argued that the internet makes organizing super quick. So, maybe you don't have to go door to door all over the country, and you can use, these tools to, put together a mass movement very quickly. I mean, I think that might be true, but I'm worried about the attention span of the American people, the sustained aspect of it. Whenever I bring that up to left progressive friends, they don't get it. I'm like, well, but back in the 60s, these protests against the Vietnam War and for, civil rights and women's rights and gay rights, they were sustained. Like I remember growing up in crappy little Kettering, Ohio, the Cesar Chavez, the lettuce union people, they were there in front of the Kroger supermarket 7 days a week, snow, sleet, rain, in shitty Kettering, Ohio, which is a Republican town and very Republican. And it's like they were doing this everywhere in the country. That's a sustained movement. It's like, for years they fought day after day after day, arrest, discouragement, no progress. But that's what is needed. And I just don't know that the American people have that in them. They may not deserve a real democracy.
The Yellow Vest movement in France. That was another one, right? It went over like a year.
Yeah.
They had 70% support from the French public.
Well, other countries wouldn't put up with this. Right now, there'd be a revolution in most countries over what's going on right now. And I don't just mean the stock market. I mean or the economy, over Social Security, over what happened, what's the deportations. The deportations alone would you think in Pakistan, people would be sitting at home watching on TV? No, they're out in the streets. I mean, these are ornery people who are poor, living in a place that's hot as shit. It's 112 on a good day. It's humid. It's uncomfortable. They're grouchy, and it's like any kind of offense, they're out in the streets. The French are the same way. It's always like en grève, on strike, always, like so. And that's and when and the thing is, they have solidarity in France, right? Like, if the postal workers go on strike, so do the train conductors and the teachers and the civil servants and the professors. Everybody goes. It's like the small shop owners, they board up their store, they go out and protest. Like, that's how it is. That's how it should, and we don't have that here.
Why don't we have that here? Is it just we've become very comfortable? Is it the propaganda that we're the greatest shiny
the French are comfortable, and the French think they have the best country in the world, and they have the best food. I mean, they
do not.
Well,
their food is good.
They have an argument for it.
But I'm sorry. Their food is good though. Their food is good.
But the point is that, like, they definitely. I think that like in France, they've learned that they don't trust government. That basically, that even if you install a revolutionary government, that's part of their culture. That government has to be watched all the time, because they're going to fuck you and get corrupted. And so then you're going to have to overturn them. Like, Thomas Jefferson famously said about, here every 20 years, right, the blood of the patriots has to fertilize a new democracy. He was looking at Europe when he made that observation. The French never forgot it. And I think I don't think it's the comfort thing. I think it's the pioneer colonial project that the United States is. I mean, the United States is like Israel in that, this is a country that, there were people here. We came in, we killed them and stole their land. That's what, and if you look at countries like, like Australia, also similar, right? Also Anglo-Saxons doing the same thing. I think it's kind of like, it's based on it's kind of like the sense is you got to take your shit from someone else, and if you're too weak to not resist, then you deserve to be killed and robbed. And so in a sense, when it comes around to you, like in the boom and bust cycle of capitalism, you're kind of like, I knew that someday they could be coming for me. I really think that's it. I mean, it's psychological. It's not like, it's part of our political culture that we have been told not to expect anything from the government. We are not a country, we keep hearing like, oh, like people don't like the term entitlement programs. Oh, well, what are you entitled to? Well, it's called an entitlement program because actually you're entitled to it because you paid into it, right? And so, but it brings up the bigger idea. What are we entitled to? Americans would say you're not entitled to anything. It's like, I would argue, no, you are. You, just for being alive, you're entitled to food, shelter, education, housing, transportation. The basic necessities of life. I think we should all be able to agree you're entitled to just for being a human being who is breathing in this country. And but people have been told, oh, you're not entitled to anything. People are even. It's just. I mean, I think if they took away Social Security, most people would be like, "Ah, shit, I knew they would do this someday," and they wouldn't rebel. They'd be mad, but I don't think they would, have a revolution.
That's terrifying. Because God, man, that level of propaganda is astonishing. Because truth be told, what is the point of a government if it's not to ensure that a society is safe from external forces,
Right.
but also to provide for the people within the context of the country. Meaning, yeah, you want to create an area or situation where people can provide for themselves. And truth be told, a government can decide to do and provide anything. A government can say, hey, we want to make sure we have an energy system. Okay, well, we're going to provide to make sure that that's there. We're going to put investment and so forth. We want to make sure that people aren't living on the street. Okay, so we're going to have a Social Security for when people get older. And I would even say it is moral. Like if you work and invest and put money into this country for the entirety of your life, and then when you get 60, 65, and you get old, and your ability to do that goes away, are you telling me that the country that you've invested all of that money, your blood and treasure into, shouldn't have some faculty to say, we're going to take care of you? We're going to give you the basics. By the way, we ran this experiment, right? That was the entire point that Social Security was enacted, because you had all of these seniors that were dirt poor, living on the street because they couldn't afford anything. Like, this country, man, it's like if they look at other countries and the things that they provide, healthcare, education, etc., and then you come to the US and they're bewildered on, wait a minute, why don't you provide those things? Even the minimum wage. I remember I was in a casino in Africa, I think Kenya, and this Danish guy wanted to talk to me. And we ended up having this long conversation. And he says, I'm a capitalist. He said, Denmark is a capitalist country. He says, but we pay our workers very well. So if somebody works at McDonald's, they may make $19 an hour based on, how much this euro versus the dollar in the United States. He said, we do that because we want our workers to be happy. We want them to enjoy their jobs and to make better workers when we do it. I don't understand how you do that and treat your workers that way. And he was even talking about healthcare. I don't understand how you don't provide that to your public. And I'm sitting there like, dude, I can't answer the question. You're right. I can't answer the question.
It is a better model, right? I mean, like even individual capitalists here in the United States, the guy who owned, I forget who founded Costco or Sam's Club, he was famous for saying that, he found that it's actually more cost efficient to pay workers better because you have more retention. You don't have as many training costs. You don't have as much shrinkage or theft. And I think personally about myself, when I had shitty jobs that paid very poorly, I stole as much as I could from there. I mean, I did. It's like I just did. When there was cash in the petty cash, that shit was mine. And it's like, oh, if they'd ever caught me, which they never did, I wouldn't have cared. It's like I would have been like, so what? I can get another shitty job. It's replaceable, no problem. Yeah. In fact, one of the things I learned was my boss found out I was stealing, and she was like, you got to cut me in, because she wasn't happy with how much she was earning. So really? She joined me in the grift, and we made more. I was making more stealing than I made from my salary. Now, the thing is, that's totally like then, ultimately, 2 jobs, 3 jobs later, I got a job that paid a little better, and I was worried about losing that job. I liked that job. I didn't want to lose it. They treated me well. So I remember one time coming home, and I'd accidentally put a pen in my pocket from work. I brought it back the next day. Now that's the difference, right? I mean, it's like, you're vested. So I totally, your Danish friend, he's right. It's like it's better business to do things that way. We don't, we're not really, this is more about power than it is about money. They're more interested in domination and dominionism than they are in actually becoming richer.
Wow. I mean, oh God, that's such a good point. I mean, if you think back when taxes under Kennedy were like, what, 70-some%? I think after we were like 90%.
Yeah.
Like any
And
anything
yet,
over
who would say that, like, during the 1950s, when those taxes were so high, who would say that the economy wasn't booming? There was
exactly.
a small recession once, but I mean, for the most part, that post-war boom is huge.
Yeah, it's expansion in regards to the American business and everything else. Ted, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for this, man. I really do appreciate it. Ted
Thanks,
Rall,
Jamal.
political
Appreciate
cartoonist, syndicated columnist, host of TMI with the great Manila Chan. They're coming on at 10 o'clock. So check them out on their channel immediately after this. Thank you for this. You be safe, man.
You too. All right.
Have a good one.